What's happening, La Familia YouTube? So, yeah, so today is a little bit of a somber day, as you can see, and as you can see from the thumbnail, the caption, the video in the beginning. I look very different right now. So yeah, you guys, so I don't exactly know why I'm doing this video. I'm sure it's not going to get any level of traction at all, because this is completely different from what I do. Obviously, you know, I only talk about fashion and do clothing and shoe reviews. And that's pretty much it. But I think there's a couple of reasons why I'm doing this. One, I obviously, while I'm somebody that it has under 1,000 followers on here, and I have 1,700 followers on Instagram. Like, I'm a nobody, okay? Like, I'm not a celebrity or anything like that. But I'm doing this video because within the that 2,700 people roughly, I have quote unquote some kind of image, and I do create content. So I wanted to do this video for a couple of reasons. Like, one, it's actually, this is the main reason, by the way. This is actually more of an exposure therapy thing, because, I'm trying to be okay with my new reality here. And also too, you guys are going to see me. I want to keep doing videos. I don't want to like stop doing stuff that I love just because, my hair is different. You know what I mean? But also too, like, I don't want you guys to be startled and then I just kind of like make this big change and not ever talk about it. So I wanted to kind of dedicate a video to it. But again, like I said, it's more so exposure therapy. It's not about approval from anybody else, not about anything like that. But yeah, you guys, had a little bit of an ego death at the barbershop on Saturday. And I'm going to be very, very, very vulnerable here. But I also do kind of have like a message, and it's something that I recently learned. Luckily, it's kind of funny. On Saturday, I make this big change. And by the way, underneath this beanie, my head's completely shaved. I'm going to show you a picture. I'm not going to expose it right now. But yeah, on Saturday, I was going to actually do like more of a drastically short haircut. And so this is where the vulnerable part comes in. Like, I would say probably over the course of the past like 5 years, for the first time in my life, I've been dealing with depression and anxiety. And give me a moment. I've been dealing with depression and anxiety for a while. It has a lot to do with, I think the pandemic was definitely something that really, really affected me, as it did a lot of people. I know that I'm not unique in that respect. And also too, and listen guys, I know I don't like to get political on here, and I know there's probably people who are Republicans or Trump supporters that do watch me. I respect you guys' decisions for who you vote for and your political beliefs, but I am on the other side. And I'm not trying to alienate you at all, but I think a lot of what's been happening, with everything politically in a political climate, it's actually made that depression and anxiety a little bit worse. Okay. But again, we're not going to jump into that though. But for some reason, I actually got a hold of it, but then it kind of came back a little bit just in the past, 7 months, I would say. And yeah, and all of a sudden I had noticed that when I was like brushing my hair and washing it and stuff like that, in the past 3 months, I noticed that I was shedding a lot more. And I was just like, well, that's weird. You know what I mean? So, just to kind of backtrack, in 2018, I do deal with like a stress related alopecia. It's not a chronic problem that I have, but, I dealt with it pretty badly back in like 2018 after like a pretty stressful breakup. Like, I was very sad, and I was very, very stressed out, and it took a long time to mentally recover from that, but it affected me physically. And I was at work, and a guy that I work with pointed out that I had a bald spot on the back of my head. So I went to my hairstylist, and yeah, and basically it was just like, hey man, like what's going on? Luckily though, my hairstylist looked closely and he's like, hey man, just so you know, there's still follicles there. He's like, I think this is just a stress related thing. You know, what's been going on? And I told him. So then I cut my hair. I cut my hair really short. So I shaved the sides and I had like a shorter, you know, lock thing going on, kind of like Killmonger from what do you call it? From Black Panther. I had a style like that basically for a very, very long time. And then my hair just got super long. You know, as you guys can see, I have giant top knots and stuff like that. My hair was actually like down, like when I cut it on Saturday, it was actually down to like right here. Like it's just past my chest. Okay, so it was very, very long. And the black people that watch my channel, you guys know, especially if you had locks or do have locks, locks are extremely heavy. Okay, they're very, very heavy, especially when they start getting that long. And hair is very, very important to black people. So yeah, so again, so that was 2018. But anyways, I noticed in the past 3 months that, like, you know, I was shedding, I was under a lot more stress, etc., etc. And when I went to the barbershop, I had said to my friend, I said, hey man, this is what I want to do. I said, but hey, I want you to look at something first, because I'm noticing, and because I noticed that when I would put my hand like right here, I noticed that it was a little bit thinner, and I saw like a little bit of a bald spot right there. And you know, I said, can we look at this first before we cut it short? And then he looked at it, and the look that he gave me, you guys, was like heart-wrenching. He just kind of looked at me like that. And he's like, hey man, he's like, I think it would be a good time to let him go now. And I'm like, oof. Now keep in mind, you guys, I've had locks for 20 years. Okay, you guys saw the pictures and the progression and stuff like that. I've had them for 20 years. So this has been like, it's been part of my identity for a very, very long time. It's been part of my identity for a really, really long time. So obviously they are very, very important to me. You know what I mean? So anyways, I'm freaking out. It's just me and him at the barbershop, and he's just like, listen, man. And by the way, he's a hairstylist. He's not a barber. So, you know, I was just saying the barbershop because, you know, technically that's what it is. But salon, I don't know. It's not really a salon, but he's a hairstylist. But anyways, you know, he's sitting there watching me, and I'm pacing back and forth. And by the way, like, I cried like a bitch, you guys. I ain't even gonna lie, okay? You know, 20 years of having dreadlocks, you know what I mean? Like, I cried like a bitch. And because I was just like, and I said, well, what if we just cut it shorter? He's like, and then we can cover it. He's like, you can do that. He's like, but the thing is, Jason, he's like, this is why I think you should look at it. Because I didn't want to look at it. So he's like, I think you need to look at it. So then I looked in the mirror and I kind of spread it apart, and I saw that, you know, that big spot, and I was like, oh shit. And then, like, yeah, I cried, or tears were running down. I didn't cry fully yet. Tears were just kind of running down my cheek. And I said, all right, well, you know, can we do this gradually? And he's like, all right. He's like, yeah, we can try to do that. And I was like, and I couldn't sit in the chair. You know what I mean? And he was just like, hey man, he's like, you know, he was kind of baffled, because he was like, why is this affecting you, you know, so much? You know what I mean? And I said, dude, do you really think I should just shave everything? He's like, dude, he's like, you looked at it. Like, he's like, yeah, I think you should. He's like, there's no way you're going to be able to, you know, cover it up right now, basically. So I was just like, all right. So then I sat down in the chair finally, and, you know, he saw, you know, that I was crying, obviously. And he was just like, hey man, and this is where he hit me with something. Now keep in mind, I've known Mike, my hairstylist, I've known him for probably like 12 to 15 years. Okay, so this guy's been a part of my lock journey for a while. You know what I mean? And he was just like, dude, like, he's like, if I had what you had, he's like, I would shave my hair. And keep in mind, Mike has beautiful locks, like long, like, and he's 48, by the way, but he has beautiful locks, long, but he knows how to take care of them, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But also, Mike's a very stressless guy, like one of the least stressed people I've ever met. Like, it's really kind of it's really an incredible thing. But he was just like, if I had what you had, dude, he's like, I would shave my hair off like immediately. And he's like, there'd be no way. He's like, but do you understand why that is? And I said, no. He's like, because my hair doesn't have any power over me. As soon as he said that, you guys, like, it was like a truth bomb that hit me. And I was just like, and then he hit me with this, and this is what really, and then I really like had tears running down my cheek. He's like, bro, he's like, I don't know what happened to you. He's like, but somewhere along the way, when did you stop realizing how dope you are, man? You know? And then he talked about the time, like, give me a quick moment. Talked about the time when we first met, and you know, he was just like, dude, like, you know, when I met you, he's like, you had amazing style. You know, I felt like I was able to relate to you because we were a lot the same, because we were both into like weird fashion and, you know, and stuff like that. He's like, and he's just like, and it's like, bro, he's like, it wasn't your hair that made you dope. It was like, you know, the energy and the confidence you exuded. You know what I mean? Hold on a second. It's probably a bunch of motherfuckers watching this right now. Like, man, nigga, why you crying about your motherfucking hair, nigga? We don't care, nigga. Anyways, you guys, so sorry about that. I need to take a quick little break. But he, you know, he basically told me, like, you know, it wasn't like those things that made me who I was, and that it was, you know, it was the energy I exuded. He's like, but the thing is, and I had a therapy appointment yesterday. It was very timely. I had a therapy appointment yesterday, and, you know, she said a very, very similar thing, but she said that things like my hair and my sunglasses, you know, like that kind of stuff is, and my girlfriend even said that it's basically kind of like a shield, you know what I mean? And like, those were the things that gave me that filled me with the energy to exude the confidence. But in reality, like, those things were just kind of like a boost, but in reality, it was really just who I am. And I need to find other ways to exude that good energy without those things, you know, essentially. So this is probably getting way too long, but listen, again, I'm only doing this for, like I said, more exposure therapy reasons. This is more therapeutic for me than it is for you. But if anybody's getting anything out of this video, especially if you are somebody with locks, and, you know, obviously this channel is about image and it's about fashion, it's about all that stuff. You know, if you are somebody that's like me for so long, like, put so much energy into an image and relied on that to like get girls and stuff like that, you know, because that was the thing for me. Like, when I got locks, I noticed that my life, when I got locks and always updated my style, those two things always kind of kept me, you know, getting girls and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay, this shit's powerful. You know what I mean? Like, this gives me aura, you know? But if there's anybody out there who thinks that way, I'm telling you, just please stop. Okay? Because, you know, as you get older and things like that, you're going to look very different. And this is actually things I would tell my 20-year-old self, by the way, because I'm just learning it now. But yeah, you don't put all your energy into that. Like, work on your insides. And I know this is kind of ridiculous and cliche, but like, make sure you're good in here, because if you're relying so much on image to make inside feel good, you're going to get shattered, is basically my point. Because I'm not going to lie, Saturday, when I had no choice but to shave my head, you know, it was shattering. And by the way, the reason why I had to shave my head was because he cut all my locks off, and and even though I have it's weird, I have a full hairline and I have a bunch of hair all over my head, but where the most, and this is where I think and fingers crossed, I might be a little delusional, but I think it's a combination of stress and the fact that it was like tension baldness because my locks, again, were very heavy, and they were mostly heavy in the front because I had kind of like this weird swoop thing going on. So it was this side right here. I had a giant, like, empty bald spot right there. And he was just like, dude, he's like, we just got to shave it all off and just start from the beginning, basically. So yeah. So, yeah, when I saw that, I'm still not used to it. Like, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I feel like I'm a shell of who I used to be, you know. But again, it's because I put way too much energy and stock, you know, into image. And, you know, here to let you guys know, especially as an older man, especially to you younger dudes, work on in here first. Like your inside. Give me a moment. Work on inside first. Like that's what's going to be most important throughout life, because if you're not good in here, you're not going to be good for anybody. Thank goodness, like, you know, like I have been in a long-term relationship for a long time and stuff like that, but I've got some failed relationships under my belt. There were a lot of things I had to learn, you know what I mean? But yeah, just make sure your insides are good. That's my point. And don't rely on the image, even though and I'm saying this as a hardcore fashion guy, you know what I mean? In the grand scheme of things, the clothes and the hair and all that shit is not gonna matter. That's not what people are really gonna remember you for. Maybe people will be like, yeah, he's a really stylish guy, but they might spend 5 seconds on that part of you. If they're talking about you after you're dead, they're gonna talk more about, like, you know, he was a really good dude. You know, he really helped people. Like, that's really what's going to be your legacy, you know what I mean? So, and how you treat your family and your friends and, you know, children if you have them. I don't have kids, but yeah, that's it, La Familia YouTube. I think this probably got way longer than it needed to be, but like I said, this is more therapeutic for me than it will be for any of you. But like I said, if you do take anything from it, I hope I helped you in some way, shape, or form, as somebody who learned a very valuable lesson about, you know, putting too much stock in your image. So yeah, all right, La Familia YouTube. So next video is going to be happier, and it's going to be I got some really crazy shoes that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, and yeah, they're the craziest shoe I've ever reviewed on this channel. So that's coming up next. But anyways, you guys, I'm out. Sorry for being a little bitch. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's just hair. You know, like, there's people, you know, knock on wood, you know, I still have my health, you know, and I'm still alive. And, you know, then there's much worse things going on in the world right now. But I only did this. It's somewhat selfish. And I apologize for that. But if you are watching this, I thank you for watching it. All right. So, all right, you guys, till the next one, we'll see you.